What's up, YouTube? So today we're going to be replacing the cab mounts and the transmission mounts on my 1966 C10. Yeah, these things are shot. Let's get started. So the brand I decided to go with is Energy Suspension. There's the part number for the body mounts, and there's the part number for the transmission mounts. I will put a link in the description for both items, but I decided to go with this product. Never used it before. They got really good reviews. Plus they're made in America, which I always like to use made in America products. I will say this, if you do not care to see the transmission mount portion of the video, go ahead and fast forward to that time right there, and that'll take you to the cab mount portion of the video. And the reason I'm saying that is I have a manual transmission, 3 on the column. So it's got the factory bell housing, because the transmission doesn't actually mount to any cross member. It mounts to the bell housing mounts to the cross member, and that's the mounts for that style. So if you don't care to see that, or you don't have that type of transmission, go ahead and fast forward to the time I shown, and that'll take you to that part of the video. All right, I will show the product, I will show the parts as we open them up and get into the install. But right now, truck's jacked up in the air, so let's get to it. This bolt out here. I think this shows in the camera, there's a little pad right here on this transmission. I'm gonna use my floor jack and that jack stand, and I'm gonna push up on the transmission, and there should be, yeah, oh yeah, there's 2 or 3 hand clearances in between that and the floor there. Jack that up, we'll pull the mounts out, and we'll compare the two. All right, so we're making contact with the pad, don't you see? So we're gonna slowly jack this thing up. All right, there's the old, ooh, that thing is rough. That thing is rough. I have to jack it up just a hair more. Yep, I can still get my hand under the transmission. Alright. One thing I may have to pull off is that dust shield. Let's take a closer look at these old motor mounts and compare them to the new ones. I wonder what Derek from Vice Grip Garage is working on today. I bet it's something cool though. So I would say these old ones are shot. If these are the original ones, they served their purpose for the past 56 years, but it's time to retire. All right, so this is what comes in the kit. You get the sleeve, the clamshell, you get the outer bracket there, and you get the inner piece that goes inside it. So that sandwiches in between your cross member. The only thing you have to reuse is the factory bolt. But I did test fit these. They fit snug on the transmission cross member. So I believe this kit's gonna work. But there is one thing I have to address on the bell housing, so let me get up under the truck and show you what I have to do. So here's the bell housing mounting pad here. There's that bolt hole. See right here what I'm pointing at, this little niblet sticking down? That's gonna have to be cut off, ground off, removed somehow. That's got to go away. I did try to use some vice grips off camera and it just kept slipping off. Wasn't really getting a good bite, so that's not gonna work. So I think that might just be knocked in like a dowel, and because that's going to interfere with that gold bracket that goes over the clamshell pad itself. So that's got to be smooth. So what I need to do is go ahead and figure out, I ain't got much room to do this, so I got to figure out how I can, what cutting device or grinding device I can get in here comfortably to get this thing cut off. And I still got to do the other side as well. So let me get all that figured out, and once I do, I'll set up the camera and we'll get to it. So what I'm gonna try is this Dremel with the grinding cutting disc here. I can get through this hole of the transmission cross member right here and get pretty flush and even. So let's give that a try and see what happens. Ooh, that was hot. Oh man, that thing was hot. right, nice and flush. They finished cleaning that up. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side, and then we can still head the new mounts in. Get the plate in place. And slide it back in. There you go. Slide this one in here. See, that part right there will face up. It's pretty simple. You can't mess this up. Of course, the plate will go in there like that, and then the bolt will go through it. Now the fun begins. Getting the bolt holes to line up with the new mount holes. Ah, yes, let the games begin. Believe it or not, the driver's side lined right up. I got the bolt in, but not tight. This side, a little bit off. I mean, we're talking about a hair off. Do you want to go to the park? You want to go to the park?
You said we could go tomorrow.
I did say that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Well, guys, duty calls. We got to go to the park. Catch you on the next one. So that pretty much wraps up this portion of the video. Got the new mounts installed. Look really good. Wasn't too bad of an install. And I just checked my drive line, and now it's back to 3 degrees where it's supposed to be. It was off about 1.5 degrees, almost 2 degrees. So now that that's correct, hopefully my U-joints last a whole lot longer. But now that that's all done, it's time to move to the second part of this video, which is replacing these cab mounts. Oh yes, they are rough looking. Let's go ahead and retire these. Alright YouTube, time to do cab mounts. If you've already fast forwarded from the transmission mount portion, and this is where you're picking up on the video, I'm glad you're staying with us. Truck is already ready to go. So I'm going to show you what needs to be done step by step. Kind of just gloss over it real quick. So let's go to the cab. First things first, you'll need to remove the door seal. Then you'll need to remove the floor mat. You can just lift one side at a time. You don't have to take the whole mat out. Or if you got carpet, then you can hopefully just be able to fold that out of the way and get to the mounts. It's going to be somewhere where that light's shining. For the front mount, the rear mount is a little different. As you can see, there's a little welded box right there with a square nut inside. The rear mount gets a bolt that goes through it and goes into that square nut. I have heard some people who have rustier trucks that can break away, so hopefully in your situation that does not happen and the bolt comes out freely. There is the rear mount right there. As you can see, it's just the head of a bolt. We're going to be, assuming that comes out, should be really easy to replace. And then the front's a nut in the bolt. Same situation. Now you can see I got pretty good threads, so this is a pretty dry truck. So that should come out relatively easy. Who knows, these may have been even replaced back in the 90s or something, but so hopefully everything comes apart like it's supposed to with no issues. So replacing cab mounts should be pretty easy, assuming your hardware isn't really rusty. If it is, you'll probably have to cut it, and hopefully that little rear box with the square nut on the back doesn't break away for you. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the seal plates, get the floor mat out of the way, and then we'll start this process. There is the nut. So if you ever do sound deadening in your truck, make sure you expose that head of that nut. Let me remove the door seal on the other side. Here we go. Always use your little slickum, whatever kind of juice you like to use. This is a specialist fast penetrant from WD to the 40th power. The top bolt is going to be 13/16. The bottom is going to be 7/8. Hopefully this thing's hits hard enough to get it. If not, I got a bigger one. I'm going to hold this while impacting the other side. We're on the passenger side of the truck right now. What we're going to do is loosen these bolts first, and we're going to be removing the driver's side, because I'm going to be doing the driver's side first. Don't ever replace one side at a time with removing all the bolts, and never leave one side fully tight. You want to loosen but keep everything in place one side while you do the other. He's on there. He's on there. Let me go get the big boy. The big boy. All right, cab mount. Let's see what you got. Oh yeah, I knew that would get it. Let's hit the other side. The rear is a 5/8. This side's loose. Let's go to the other side and actually take all the hardware off on that. All right, driver's side, here we go. That side was pretty easy. Look at that. Sometimes it pays to have a rust-free truck. Ooh. A little rust on the bolt, that could definitely be reused. All right, rear driver mount, let's go. Ooh. That bolt ain't too bad either. Let's get a floor jack, some kind of load distributing apparatus here, 2x4 or otherwise, and let's get these mounts out. Let's see what happens here. All right. Oh yeah. Yeah, that one's pretty shot. Go ahead and remove the other side. All right, YouTube. I got ahead of myself and skipped a couple of steps. So if you're going to be replacing cab mounts on your C10, there are two front mounts that sandwich in between the frame and the core support that do not come in the kit that I showed you. You will have to purchase those mounts separately. I will put a link in the description of the mounts I'm currently using, because back in 2019 I did an engine swap on this truck, and when I did, I removed the whole front clip and did all my thing there, and then once I put everything back together, I put new core support mounts in the front. So I'll show y'all what those look like. They're really easy to get to. The mount on the bottom is on the outside of the frame, so it's really easy to get to and see. And on the top side, you'll need, if you have a mid-60 C10, you'll have to remove that front cover, which I've already done, and you'll see the head of the bolt. It's actually a carriage bolt, and I can't remember if I had to cut mine off or it actually broke loose, but those do get pretty rusty, so you may have to cut yours off, gas axe, whatever you got to do there to get the old bolt off. And once you remove the old mounts, then you can replace them. The reason why I'm filming this part is, one, like I showed you earlier, whatever side you're going to be lifting up to replace your cab mounts, like I showed you earlier, you want your other side mounts to be loose. I highly recommend doing the same thing on the front. Jack up your cab, replace the mounts, then do the other side, repeat the process on the other side, then you're done. Now, as you can see, I was able to remove my cab mounts without loosening the front, but I just want y'all, if you're watching my video to learn how to do this and try to do it correctly, I'm trying to tell you the best way to do it. I did it, it worked, but I recommend, one, replacing the front mounts, and two, loosening the bolts if you're going to be lifting it up on both sides. Let me show you the head of the bolt. I already got the front cover off, show you what that looks like, and then I'll show you the bottom of the mount, because what I want to do is go ahead and break those nuts loose and just leave them loose. That way when I lift back up on the cab, I'm not putting any tension on the front. So let's show you what that looks like. There's the top of the carriage bolt right there. Comes with that big square washer, so that keeps it from spinning. And that's where the actual mount goes. You see where it sandwiches in between core support and the frame mounting bracket there. I've already loosened the nut here, broke them loose, so that was really easy for me. Like I said, if you had to, if yours are really rusty and you have to cut them off, you may have to remove this bumper brace here to access it if you're just using a cutoff wheel or whatever. But those are really easy to get to, whether you have to cut them off or otherwise. All right, now that I've corrected this portion of the video, let's replace these mounts. What the? Why is there a 2x4 back here in the back mount? And why is there an old mount in the front? Really, really simple. When I did the engine swap, I removed the front clip, took the engine out and cleaned up the frame. Painted it really, really nice. All suspension components, everything. When I did the C-notch and all the stuff I did in the rear, I removed the bed, cleaned up the frame and painted it really, really nice. Leaving this rusty 4-foot section here. So what I'm gonna do before I put the new mounts on is clean all this up. I gotta do both sides of the frame, get all that rust off of there. I gotta remove a couple of bolts here. And of course the other side's gonna be a little harder because I gotta remove the fuel pump. I'm not gonna bore y'all with that, but through the magic of editing, you're gonna see a nice clean frame in 3, 2, 1. One side down and one side to go. Turned out pretty nice. In case you wonder what paint I use, it's VHT epoxy paint. It's the only paint I use when it comes to suspension and frame type stuff. They make a satin black, which is the color you're looking at now. And they also make a gloss black. So I have to clean up the frame the best I could. To get that paint to lay down really nice, you want to try to get the metal as clean as possible. Try to get as much of the rust and scale and crud and all that stuff off. And when you paint it, it'll lay down really nice. So now that that section of the frame matches the rest of the frame, we can move on to the cab mounts. I did notice when I was cleaning up the frame that the original paint, what was left of it, there were some runs in the paint. So what I decided to do was go for a factory look and add some runs to the frame while I was painting it. Nope, I got carried away and held the trigger too long when I was painting. But enough about my mistakes on paint. This is not a paint video. This is a cab mount video. So what we need to do is get the floor jack up, jack the cab back up, and get that 2x4 out of there because that is the incorrect mount for a C10. I have the correct ones on the workbench, so let me go grab those and we'll get these new mounts installed. Alright, 2x4, thanks for the support. Right there's that front mount. And as you see it like this is how it will go in between the frame. This is the upper mount, the washer. There's a sleeve. And then the lower mount will go on the bottom, washer, and then bolt and nut. The kit does come with instructions. If you can see that right there, let me push that pin out of the way. There's a little raised spot right there that faces down inside the hole of the frame. Push that pin down. Set your washer on top like so. There it goes. Now what we need to do is lower a little bit. Put the lower mount there. It does come with a locking nut. Let's take the weight off, see what happens. Oh yeah. Yeah, it'll be long enough. Now we got the rear mount to do. This one's a little different. Remember the bolt goes into that threaded nutsert. Washer goes on top. Make sure you put your sleeve in. And you got this cone shaped. That's the bottom one there. This one's a little different because you gotta hold everything up. Alright. A little tricky fighting the gravity. Let's see if that lined up with that square nut inside the cab. It's not catching any thread. I don't think it's lined up. Or it's a different thread pattern. Well, compare the new bolt to the old bolt. This is a 7/16, and the new bolt that comes in the kit is a 1/2 inch. So that's not going to thread into that square nut on the other side of the floorboard there. So I'm just going to have to reuse the original bolt. Luckily for me, mine's in really good shape. Yep, it's catching thread there. I guess the front is supporting more of the weight than the rear mount is. Well, that worked out all right. But since we got to do the other side, we'll go ahead and loosen this back up. That should work there. Yeah, I can move that mount now. All right, driver's side cab mounts are in place, not officially bolted down just yet, because I still got to repeat this whole process of the frame and everything on the other side. Not going to film that, but once everything's done, I'll show you what the mounts look like. And more importantly, we'll check our body lines from the cab to the bed and make sure they're on point. Because that's the whole idea of replacing your mounts, to correct your body lines. Plus, you want your cab supported with some good mounts. All right, I got to repeat all this on the other side. Yep, working on the passenger side and got all the mounts out. Look at that. That bolt is shot. The other one didn't look too bad. Y'all saw that earlier, but who knows? Maybe these are the original cab mounts. But some of these rubbers are really pliable, so I don't know. Maybe it's possible this thing is 50 plus years old and it's still got all that sponginess to it. What do I know? All right, I got to get back to work. All right, so real quick, I just wanted to show you how the frame turned out. You're looking at the passenger side of the truck. And this side was a little harder for me because I had to remove the fuel system, all the fuel hoses, get the brake line out of the way, power cable going to the compressors, air line, all that stuff. So this side took a little longer. I even redid the, there's my parking brake cable, my pinky finger is. Took all the hardware off of it, cleaned it up. Turned out really nice. Transmission mounts. Driver's side of the frame. This side was a little easier because all that was in the way was just wiring. Let me show you the outside of the frame. You've already seen the driver's side, so here's the passenger side. There's my fuel gauge, hoses, going to my electric fuel pump from Metalbrock. In case you're unaware what kind of pump I was running, that is it. Frame turned out okay for the cab still being on top of the truck. Sometimes us poor folks have poor ways to do things to make something look nice. Now, as far as the mounts go, they are in place, but they're not fully tightened down. Because what I want to do is go ahead and get the truck back down on the ground, get the weight on the tires, check body lines, and if I have to shim anything, we'll go ahead and correct it there. And I'll go ahead and wrap this video up. I think what I'll do to finish it off, go ahead and move the truck outside, do a little walk around. In case it's your first time watching and you've never seen my truck before. Alright guys, I'm going to get back to work. Got some artwork going on out here. Just letting the truck warm up. It's been set for a couple weeks. Let's check these body lines. Oh yeah, I did have to shim the back driver's side here, 1/16 of an inch. Luckily I had some spare washers that came with the seatbelt kit that I installed a few years ago. Well, that worked out okay. Mounts look really good up under here. All kinds of hearts going on out in here. Look at this body line here. Oh yeah, that's money right there. Now you may be looking at the trim and thinking, well, it doesn't look lined up to me. But it is. That line and that line, that line and that line line up perfectly. So somehow this trim's either gotten moved or is never from the factory installed straight. This thing needs to come down. If I ever replace this trim, we'll try to correct all that. But the body to the cab, or the cab to the bed, is lined up perfectly. All right guys, as you can see, I got my artist out here. She's doing some work out here in the driveway.
Huh?
You're doing some artwork on the driveway, ain't you? Making some hearts and stuff? That's because she loves her dad in her truck. To be 6 years old again. Now, in the instructions, I don't remember them saying anything about what the torque specs are. So basically what I did, I did about 70% of all of it. That seemed to work out okay. But in all honesty, just tighten them up, make sure they're really tight. If you want to, you can look it up in the manual if you got one. Look it up online and it'll probably tell you where you need to be. But get them nice and tight and you should be fine. All right, I got a rusty, dusty mess I got to clean up. Clean that section of the frame. That brown, powdery dust got everywhere. So I need to put the hose to it. She's pretty dirty.
Daddy, I need that.
You need what?
I need the whole crap.
Are you telling me I need to move my truck?
Huh?
Are you telling me I need to move my truck?
Yeah, so it's right under it.
All right, guys, I guess I got to move my truck. Till next time, thanks for watching.
No!
I don't know who raised her. We'll find that out.